Hi, and thank you for joining me for this video. So can a £90 tent actually be any good? Well, this Coleman Darwin 2 Plus is a budget 2-person 3-season tent. But is it cheap and cheerful, or is it just cheap? So everything you get comes in this storage bag. Now I have to say, this Coleman tent storage bag is really well made, and compared to a lot of tent storage bags that I see, this really is good quality. You've got a couple of really strong handles at the top. It comes with a good quality zip that doesn't stick or snag. This storage bag has a good opening. When opened up, it's a good size, so it's going to make getting everything out and then back into the storage bag quick and easy. Now you do get some information on the storage bag, but as I say, overall this is a really good quality storage bag. Now when it comes to the size of the storage bag, the length comes in at around 57 centimeters, and then the width comes in at around 18 centimeters, and then the depth comes in at around 16 centimeters. Now when it comes to the packed weight, it comes in at around 4.3 kilograms, so it's definitely not light. So taking into account the size of the storage bag and the packed weight, this tent isn't going to be best suited for backpacking. Now you could use this tent for backpacking, but because of the packed weights and the size, you're not going to be walking very far. So this tent would be better suited for some local camping, or if you're not going to be walking too far, or perhaps if you're going to be sharing this tent with someone, you could share the weight of this tent. Alternatively, this tent would make a great festival tent, or if you're going to be doing car or motorcycle overlanding, this tent would be perfect. So what do we get inside our storage bag? Well, on the inside of your storage bag, you will get a leaflet and a little booklet with some extra information should you need it. But more importantly, you will get some setup instructions, but not just on how to set this tent up correctly, but also how to take it down afterwards. Now, everything will come rolled and kept together with these compression straps. Now, they're not the greatest. You might want to change those out for some bungee cords or something like that. You will then get your outer fly, you will then get your inner tent, you will then get some fiberglass tent poles which come in their own storage bag. You then will get some aluminium shepherd hook ground pegs with some nylon guy lines and some extra tent patches should you damage your tent. All this will also come in its own little storage bag. Now you don't get a footprint with this tent, and I don't think Coleman actually do their own footprint for this tent, but what I would do is just buy a cheap bit of tarpaulin or a cheap footprint that is compatible with this tent, just to give you an extra layer of protection under your tent. Now when it comes to setting up this tent, the first thing you want to do, if you've got one, is get your footprint laid out. We then need to lay out our inner tent and get it all pegged out. Now with this tent, you get 3 fiberglass poles. 2 of them are black, which you connect those 2 poles together, and then you simply crisscross them over the center of your tent. You will then be left with a 3rd pole, which is black and red. This pole is to help set up the porch on this tent. So we'll come back to this pole in a minute. Now when it comes to this next part, I'm going to show you how I set this Coleman tent up, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, because you see what normally happens when people have connected their tent poles together, they then try and connect it straight to their tent, and they find it really tricky. What you actually want to do is, before you connect your tent poles to your tent, you actually want to take your inner tent, and you've got all these clips on your inner tent. Go round and connect those first to your tent poles, and then right in the center of your tent, you will have this nylon cord, which you just tie around both of your tent poles. And then you want to start connecting your tent poles to your tent. That's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Now, when it comes to connecting your tent poles to your tent, you have the Coleman ring pin system. The ring at the bottom here has your ground peg going through it, but then you have this pin which simply goes on the inside of your tent pole, because this metal cover here is actually hollow. So you just simply slide that pin right into the middle of your tent pole. Now you've got your inner tent set up, you could in essence just use this inner tent on its own if it's not going to rain, because it's all pegged out and it's more than stable enough. But you also have 3 mesh windows on this tent. You have one each side on the roof of your tent, and you have one on the door. Now these mesh windows are going to allow a nice little bit of airflow inside your tent, which will help reduce any condensation, but also they will help keep any insects out of your tent. You then want to grab your outer rain flyer and drapes it over the top of your inner tent, and then just connect your outer rain flyer to the ground pegs. You then want to grab your last fiberglass tent pole, the one with the red section on, put your pole together, and then simply just slide it through this tent pole sleeve, which will go right through to the other side of your tent. Connect both ends of your pole to your tent, and that will be the porch setup. And then finally, all you want to do is peg out the remainder of your tent, including connecting your guy lines and getting those all pegged out. Go around, double check your tent, make any adjustments that you need to, and then you will notice you have 4 air vent covers. You've got 2 this side and you've got 2 the other side. Just open these up so the air can go underneath them and into your tent, and then you're done. Now from start to finish, this tent will probably take you between 10 and 15 minutes to set up. But the more you do it, the quicker you will become at setting up this tent. Now, when it comes to the outer fabric of this tent, it is made from a PU coated polyester, and it has a hydrostatic head rating of 3000 millimeters. Also, all the stitching is double stitched and tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. It also has a UPF 50 plus protection on it, so it's going to protect you from the UV rays. It is also fire retardant, which is a bonus. Now, when it comes to the bathtub floor on this tent, it's made from a polyethylene, and it has a hydrostatic head rating of 3000 millimeters. It has also been double stitched and tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. Now, when it comes to this tent, you just get the one outer door, which can simply be unzipped, rolled and toggled back. Now, the zips on this tent aren't YKK zips, but they are a good quality zip, and they definitely don't snag. Now, the outer zip is covered with the storm flap to help protect it from the weather. Now, on this tent, each side you get one PVC see-through window, which is great. Now, behind the little PVC windows, there is a little fabric cover, so you could keep those covers up to give you a little bit more privacy, or you can roll those little covers down and toggle them up to help let in a nice bit of natural light. Now, with this tent, you get a really nice little porch. Now, it does say on a little label on your tent there, "Don't cook," but that's more reference to inside the main area of the tent. But if you were to sit here in the porch looking outwards and did a little bit of cooking and you were careful, it would be absolutely fine. But apart from cooking inside this little porch, you could also store some stuff. Now, it's not a bad size porch. Here at the front, at the narrowest part before you get into the porch, comes in at around 90 centimeters. The width at the widest point, which is right at the back, just before you get into the sleeping area of the tent, comes in at around 160 centimeters. And then the width from the inside of the tent, just before you get into the sleeping area, to the outside of the entrance of the tent, is around 100 centimeters. And then the internal height inside this porch is around 110 centimeters. Now, when it comes to the internal size of this tent in the sleeping area, the length comes in at around 210 centimeters. The width comes in at around 140 centimeters, and the internal height comes in at around 110 centimeters. Now, as you can see on the top, you've got a couple of mesh windows there for ventilation, and you also have a lamp hook. You also get a couple of little mesh pockets. So for two people, which this tent is designed for, probably a bit of a squeeze, but for one person it would be a really nice space. Now, before I give you my final thoughts on this tent, I just wanted to say that one of the first tents I ever got was a Coleman tent, and I absolutely loved that tent. That tent never let me down, it never leaked, and it performed really well in the wind. And that tent went on to give me some fantastic camping memories. Now, some of my subscribers have messaged me and they've all expressed how impressed they've been when using a Coleman tent. And I suppose what I'm getting at is that you don't always have to spend a lot of money on a tent that performs well and that gives you some great camping memories. I think there's a lot of people that spend a lot of money on tents which are overkill for what they need. But on the flip side, I also think there's people that expect too much from their tents, and when their tents fail, they seem to be confused as to why. So I always think the golden rule is, whatever tent you're looking at buying, whatever you're wanting to spend on your tent, you've always got to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what are your realistic expectations of the tent you're buying? And I think if you're honest with yourself, you will inevitably always purchase the correct tent for you. So my final thoughts on this Coleman Darwin 2 Plus tent. Well, I think this tent is a simple, reliable tent. It does what it needs to do. It's easy to pitch, it handles the UK weather well, and it gives you enough space for a comfortable weekend. Now, no, it's not an ultralight tent, and no, it's not a premium tent, but for the price, it's a solid, dependable tent, which is great for beginners or some casual camping. So overall for me, this tent just works. No fuss, no complications. And for £90, this Coleman Darwin 2 Plus definitely works. A tent I would highly recommend. But in saying that, you tell me what you think about this tent, and would this tent work for you? But on that note, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And lastly, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.